So I want to just welcome everybody who joining us today. Thank you for taking time. And we're Tori and Paul are going to be doing today's presentation. We are recording it so that people who couldn't make it can watch it later. I'm going to send the link to the recording out to everybody who did attend after we're done. And if you have any questions, we're a really small group, so maybe we can just do questions and answers at the end. And if you want to put it into your question into the chat, we can review those at the end as well, or we can just do the raise your hand method since the group is so small. So I think that's all the housekeeping, and I'm going to turn it over to Tori and Paul.
Thanks, Pat. All right, so welcome everyone. I'm glad you guys are here. We're starting off Mental Health Week. We're excited to be able to do this series. And so this was actually formed because there was a survey that went out this past summer to our affiliates about kind of what they need help with, what are some topic points that you guys would want to discuss, things that might be a struggle within your affiliate or just in the community in general. And so we took those topics and those suggestions and we made them into a week-long series. So we're really excited to get those going and kind of partner with you to make our affiliates stronger and just our community partnership stronger as well. So we're happy you're here. All right, so today we start off with Be the Bridge Across Generations. So I'm Tori. If you guys don't know me, I'm the Young Adult Coordinator, Program Coordinator for NAMI. We are going to dive in the next slide about kind of what we do in the community. Paul and I have different jobs, but we are very similar in the fact that we have different generations that we kind of impact. And that's what we're going to talk about today on kind of what works, what might not work, and how do we kind of pull those together. Paul, do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Wait a minute, Ho.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, my name's Paul Brainerd. Welcome, you guys. We're so glad to have you here with us today. My name's Paul Brainerd. I've been with NAMI going to my 10th year now. I love it. I work in the education and support group coordinator. And again, I'll go into that in a minute so you can kind of see two facets of what Tori and I do for NAMI.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
Sure.
All right, so today's focus, we have 4 points that we're going to discuss today. So just mental health engagement across different generations and how do we connect effectively within those generations and populations. We're going to talk about the needs and preferences within these populations, and then the outreach and recruitment strategies within different ages. That was a big topic point that got brought up a lot within that survey and just in general that we hear about. So we're going to focus pretty heavy on that. And then we're going to talk a lot about language and communication within these generations. All right, so let's dive in. Mental health engagement across different generations, how to effectively connect. So what we want to do within this slide, we just want to talk about our jobs in general and how we're kind of doing things within our communities. So Paul, do you want to talk about more what you do and kind of like how you engage within people?
Yeah, well, in general, the facets I work with NAMI, one's provider education. That I work more with professional clinicians. We go in with a trained panel we have of a mental health provider, a family member, a person in recovery. They sit as a panel. It's a 4-hour presentation we do interactively with them. We prefer to do them live on site. And the panel sits there and we talk to them a lot about collaborative care and how the clinicians there work together to get the best outcome for their patients and trying to understand the connection between the family members involved, the patient and the clinician themselves, and that kind of that triad. And we run through scenarios and different situations. I mean, it's a very active, interactive thing where they're involved in it, and we do that. It's very successful in the provider education end. Opioid support groups, we've been doing those here at NAMI. You guys might be surprised, but we do run an opioid support group. We've been doing that since 2017. Ours is remote. And we get people from all over the state and even out of state that have loved ones here. We've served over 450 families in that time since over 8.5 years we've been involved. We offer family support, a lot of referral. We do give out Narcan kits, do a lot on harm reduction for those families. And you know, you'd be surprised if you guys just on a sidebar, I know we're time limited, but the opioid deaths per year in the United States are 80,000 people. So it's a big deal. Suicides were like 46, car accidents 42. All the soldiers killed in the Vietnam War, 53,000, just to give you 80,000 people there. So it's big and it's important what we do. So we're glad to be involved. Demas kind of wanted us to get involved, and we thought it was a great plug-in because of the connection with addiction, mental health, and opioids. So we kind of serve a special purpose there with it, which really helps out a lot. The other thing I do is I work with Demas and Department of Aging. They do a thing called New to Medicare each year where Demas wants to do outreach for folks, particularly in the social rehab clubhouses. We have 24 of them throughout the state, and they like to do an outreach to those individuals and do a new to Medicare presentation. They brought us on board because they thought, why not let's get a twofer out of it? So we do a mental health presentation also with them. I kind of coordinate the whole thing because I'm the front person for these clubhouses. So I coordinate with Demas with the Department of Aging itself and coordinate those new to Medicare and the presentations with the mental health. And we also do a tag along now because of opioids again. And since we're involved in it and I have the presentation, we do an opioid awareness presentation included with that also. So it's all beneficial. We did several last year, hit about 7 or 8 clubhouses out of the 24. We'll grab another 7 or 8 this year. And then I do community engagement, mental health presentations for, you know, we've done them for businesses anywhere from Sikorsky's, Legos, Pratt and Whitney, service organizations, Rotary Club, Kiwanis, Lions, JC's, and then community-based organizations. We'll do a lot of things like libraries. They'll have one open to the public. We even did one for the librarians here, and a lot of prevention organizations that exist in all the cities and towns throughout the state. So that kind of covers my more involved. And not to get offshoot on that, generationally involved to do with this is, yeah, I do meet a lot of people across the facets of these. I think the one that's more important and germane to what we're talking about today is where I meet with a lot of the Department of Aging folks, because Tori's deals with young adults, so you kind of got both perspectives of us here today. Tori's on the young adults. I do a lot with the Department of Aging. And I might add also with that, I forgot to include, I do presentations at the state residential communities they have available here, low-income residential facilities they have. I do those throughout the state also during the year. So yeah, I meet a lot of people with that. I would say the number one thing we come across is and talk about a lot, which we'll get into, isolation and loneliness a lot at these facilities. That's one of the topics that comes up and ways we can combat that. And I think Tori, well, we didn't get to talk before. I think, and you guys, I'll be interested when we get to the question and answer. You're going to see a lot of parallels, isolation and loneliness. While it's on one generation, on one end of the spectrum, you're going to find that same parallel exists in the other. And I'll be curious to see the contrast to that. And
yeah, we'll definitely get into that. So
So
Thanks,
yeah,
Paul. I appreciate it.
good.
You do a lot.
Yeah.
We have a lot going on in our jobs, so thank you. Yeah. So Paul does, again, he talked about the aging and just in general, he's really out in the community a lot as well with like opiates and everything, which is amazing that you can do that work, Paul. We really appreciate all that you do too. So within my job, I don't see a lot of people within like the addiction part. So I'm glad that we do touch upon that and that, you know, you're able to be out in the community with that. I really focus within the mental health. And I was thinking about this last night when I was thinking about what I was gonna say, just in general with like our age, is that I was hired to do young adults, which was 18 to 29, but my job has expanded so much within, we created a program that's 30 to 35 year olds, which I think we was amazing that we did that. We heard a need for that. So our young adult program typically goes from 18 to 29. Like I said, that's within our support groups, and we do activities in the community monthly. And we saw a need that when you're aging out of this system of 29, so DMIS, it's actually 24, but we've extended ours to 29. And when that happens, we see that like from 30 to 35, around that age range, they're not sure where they fit. So if you want to go to a support group, they're not sure if they want to still continue to be in young adult because they're trying to get out there within like the adult world and the things that they need to be doing. But then there's also that gap, maybe 40 and above, that they might not feel like they fit there yet. So there's this their weird age range. And so what we did is we created the connection continuum. And what that is we have support groups in person and online that help those 30 to 35 year olds transition into the older adult and kind of what happens within that time frame. We're really happy that we're able to do that because we see that being one of our biggest strengths right now. So we have a lot of people who attend those groups, a lot of the young adults who are now leaders within our community, and they do the support groups and trainings with me. They're getting to the age of 29, 30, 31. And so we needed something for them to kind of be able to lean on their support and what they kind of need in their lives as well. So that was something we wanted to highlight. And some people don't know about it, and we try to get it out there. But we can have that within the whole state of Connecticut. Right now, it's only in 4 locations, and we're trying to expand that as I get more leaders. So the other part of my job is that I help with End the Silence and NAMI on Campus. A lot of these you probably have heard of, but NAMI on Campus is really strong right now. We have six, actually seven active campuses. And then we also have other connections with other colleges. They might not have a NAMI on campus, but we are active in their community as well. Super important that we do that for that population where they're just getting to be on their own. They have things that they have to do that they may have never done before within like high school years. And so we really want to be able to support them. And it's one of our programs that we see very active. And then I also think about how when we do End the Silence, we're doing around the age range of maybe 14 to 18. So typically high schools, some middle schools. We just recently launched with the CHDI program, and we've been doing a lot of presentations within that, and it was middle school and high school. And we have our student navigator program that typically has 14 to 15 year olds who want to be a person, like a peer uh, within like their school that people can lean on to talk about mental health, and it's really successful. So we got a lot of great things going on. And then my last highlight or program is our Next Generation Advisory Board, which is new this year. We have 13 people on our board, and it's 16 to 31. And the ones that are 30 and 31 are our mentors. And then we're able to have them advocate, educate, and they really lead the whole program, which is awesome. I'm just kind of there. They don't really need me. They're out in their community doing partnerships, tabling events and all of that. And we're really excited to be able to see that happen. So we talk about effectively connecting. Every generation is different, and that's kind of what we're going to dive in today on how do we do that? What are we seeing? And as Paul said, there are definitely comparisons that within every population that's going to happen, but there's definitely different ways to effectively connect within, and we're going to kind of give you guys those tips and what we've seen. So All right, needs and preferences within these populations. So as we talk a little bit on this slide, I would love for you guys to use the chat box if you want to, or just think about this question. But how do you connect? What is your way of connecting? Is it you rather be in person? Would you like to be on Zoom? Do you use your phone more? Do you email? Do you text? What is your preferred way of communicating? And what's the need for you? Is that do you need to be on your phone? Do you need to be in person? We just want you to think about that as we kind of dive into this slide. All right, Paul, do you want to talk about some of the needs and preferences within the populations that you serve?
Yeah, I guess I want to comment first, since the advent of COVID and that we were going through that nightmare, uh, we've seen a reliance more on technology and what we're doing today with these webinars, which are great. But I think a lot of people are left behind that are a generation, maybe I'm almost 70, so my age and older, I don't know if I'm typical or not, but I think there was some positives and negative takeaways from COVID, but a lot of it forced a lot of people to become more receptive to using this kind of technology, which was a good thing. It can be over relied on when face to face is better, but let's face it, when you're having a situation where you have somebody who is more of a shut-in or they can't get out, or you have inclement weather, they can't go, or for whatever reason they don't have transportation, it still allows them an opportunity to participate. So I think some of the challenge they have is still getting more people, bringing them into the party and getting more older people that want to use this technology to go on. You can do it, and you can get something meaningful out of remote um, presentations, remote connections with people. The other things I think I find with folks, the other challenges, not directly with me directly, but I think a lot of older adults um, that maybe you lose a loved one or you live in a home by yourself now. You don't get out as much, and we don't rely on neighbors like we used to. So it's challenging to get the people that are left out. I mean, the people that still have transportation, that are still mobile, they can go to senior centers. They can get involved. They can go to plays. They can be involved in activities or hobbies that they want to, but it's trying to reach those people. When I go out and present at these um, senior living facilities, there's a lot going on for them. And I try to promote to them that um, do they know someone or have a loved one or other people in their family that they can reach out to, a friend that they can include or get involved. We always try to make sure they're aware, and I think the facilities do too. Anything like Connecticut does a great job with transportation. They'll have Dial a Ride, or I think they have one called Encompass. Um, those programs, they always have programs at the facilities. Again, like I said, senior citizens, centers, libraries, where there's church and faith-based organizations, and social and recreational groups like JCCs. You don't have to be Jewish to go to those, and they do great in communities. So, um, yeah, I would say the preference for those folks is uh, that while a lot of them, COVID has helped them to embrace technology more, we still need to do more. I would like to see them do more in helping make people cozy up more that are still left out of using remote, because if that's better than it's better than nothing at all. So I don't think we do enough in that, and that's not under my purview to teach that. But if I was going to give feedback, I would say that is a big step forward for those communities and the people that are left behind. Tori?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So when I think about needs and preferences within the populations that I have been helping with, I notice one of the things is that it's time. So I don't typically work 9 to 5 like most people do, because a lot of the young adults either have jobs, they go to camp, school, they're on campus, they have social lives. And so a lot of the time that they can meet with me or that they want to do support groups are at nighttime. And so oftentimes I have meetings at 7, 8 o'clock at night, and I adjust to that because that's the lifestyle that the younger generation lives. And I love that I could see that difference. It took me a while to kind of understand like what they needed, but that was a strong need for them. So that was one of the biggest parts that I wanted to bring up, because I think that we have to kind of adjust within, our populations. And then going back to what you said, Paul, about within like COVID, I saw a big difference in COVID, that I think that the younger population has always been on their phones and always been on social media, but it definitely hit even bigger when it came to COVID. And I noticed that it was everything they wanted to be online. It was all of those things. And we transitioned it to having AA meetings online and support groups and really anything, our telehealth and just everything you can think of has been able to go on to online, which I think is a wonderful thing. But one of the problems with that, or the barriers with that, is that when we did transition back into quote unquote normal life, it was hard to get them back into wanting to be in person. And I wanted to get creative on how I could do that. I think it's great to do both. I think online is wonderful, but I do think there's a need within connection in person. And so what we've come up with is doing our monthly activities, and that's going to like going bowling or going out and getting food together or taking a walk together, whatever that might look like. We wanted to try to offer that to see if that would help, and it absolutely did. Those are our very well attended events, and we do game days in person and creative expressions in person. And it took a while to transition back into that, but I'm seeing that now, once we're, 2025 now, people are there. People are wanting to do that. So we have to get very, again, creative and kind of doing both and making sure that we're having all populations covered. So, even with our next generation, we do everything online, but they've expressed they want to be in person. So we want to be able to maybe offer, we do an in-person meeting, or that they, we get to go, we just went to the Bridgeport Zoo, and like there's just a lot of cool things that we could do together. And I'm noticing that we have to do both. Um, yeah, I think, and then again, that just goes in with preferences. I think everybody is different. I know even for myself that I kind of changed and wanting to do things in person too. Um, and that's because I think I lost some of the connection, and that's what I was hearing from some of our young adults. So we're trying to get back to that. So yeah, I definitely think it's a balance. Anything else on this slide, Paul, or do you want to move forward?
No, I just think it's
Think we-
uncanny. We talked to, here's a posing one. Tori's on her end is trying to get people away from the digital, and we have a need for people for more digital literacy on the other end of the spectrum. So
Yeah,
it's kind of that one there kind of balances opposite, but you see there's a lot of parallels there where the
absolutely.
same. Yeah.
Let's see, my slides are not going. There we go. All right, so outreach and recruitment strategies within these ages. So, Paul, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do for outreach? How do you kind of get creative, and how do you recruit people either to attend things or to kind of be a part of NAMI, or anything along the lines of that? And we'll kind of dive into like the social media stuff and also
Yeah,
preference.
well, I consider myself a salesman and a front person for NAMI, so I'm here to sell our programs, and that's what that's the cornerstone of who we are. So I need to get out there in the community and talk about NAMI and what our programs are, what they can do. Whether I'm out in out in the community presenting, whether we're tabling at events. We just did one at IOL recently, but it's having that presence out there and exposing people to something they didn't know was available. I want to tell you a funny story. So we did a youth event at here in West Hartford at the Veterans Memorial Skate Rink. So I had a lady come up, and this was she came up and she was talking about her daughter, and she wanted to approach NAMI, our table, and right away she asked me, "Well, do you have anything for a young?" Her daughter's like 12, and I mean, just giving the poor lady fits. I mean, so and she does have. We talked, and she does have some bipolar. I didn't know she's been diagnosed fully, but the woman was talking about activities are not activities, but something NAMI could do. And well, we really don't at that age, we don't get involved that much. But I said, why your daughter? Why don't you come to NAMI? We have family support groups for families. We have a support group for you. You come. This is for your help to support you, and you can meet other peers that are going through the same thing you with children and adolescents. You can find coping mechanisms out there that work for you. People walked in your shoes. You can find people that find referrals and things they did, and it was like a light bulb went on in her face. And she, oh, you mean I can come? It can be for me. And I reversed the roles. She was thinking about what she needs to fix her daughter, and I said maybe it starts just the opposite with you. No one had ever told her this poor woman that it can start with you. You come and you be the person that can take care of this, and will help you help your daughter. But I just that is that's an example of things when you're in the field, you take it for granted. You forget that there are people out there like that. And it was a moment for me because I felt a connection with her, and I was like, wow, I'd forgotten that these people are here. They didn't she didn't know. She didn't know it could go through her to help her daughter. So those sort of moments, reaching out and you have those connections with them are so important out there. And I think I have the same thing happen when I go particularly when I give mental health presentations at residential facilities or at the mental health social rehabs. You know, a lot is gained, when people are there, and we particularly in the Q&A afterwards, and you find out a lot out there. So for me, it's more the strategies are selling our programs, whether we're out there selling just our family support group. We're out there, connections groups, in our own voice, young adults programs, selling all those out there every day. That for me is the biggest recruitment strategy we can have. And I'm fortunate because I have a lot of it baked in with between Demas and um, the Department of Aging, and of course NAMI's relationship also with the community. A lot of that's already out there for me to just outreach, and it's low hanging fruit. So it works well. Tori, go ahead.
Yeah, so outreach is actually one of my favorite topics. When I, talk with anyone who's kind of trying to learn about our, next generation. So one of the big things I'm sure a lot of you all know is that social media, we rely very heavy on social media. So I I'm 34 years old and I rely heavy on social media and my phone. But I look back, I'll even take my little sister, for example. Paul and I were having this conversation. She's 21 and excuse me, she's 21 and she is literally on her phone 24/7, constantly on TikTok, constantly on Instagram. She has to be connecting with someone at all times, every day, every moment. And that's a little too much for me, but it's something that I've realized again, it's a generational thing. So I have 16 to 25-year-olds who again are very heavily into like TikTok and those things, which I'm not necessarily into that, but we have to be in order to have outreach, right? So in order to recruit or in order to be able to tell people kind of what we're doing, or if we want leaders within our support groups, we have to get into the latest trends. And so we have to understand what's out there right now. TikTok actually drives me crazy. It drives me nuts. but I know that it's important for the younger population who's on there. And we actually, last year, within one of our retreats that we had for young adults, we created TikTok videos and they were so excited. It's what got them really happy to be there and they shined within that. And maybe that might not be my thing or my age thing, but it was absolutely theirs. And so I realized like we really need to just kind of watch those trends and how we can get, again, get creative. So another way that I think is really positive and a good tip for us all to have is that I've noticed that the biggest way to get young adults wanting to volunteer or to just be a part of NAMI or just be a part of like our mental health conversations in general is they love to share their story. Lived experience is a really big thing for them. And I think that's across the board of all generations, but especially the next generation. They just want to talk. They just want to be able to help one person and they're happy. They want to be able to have a conversation that they're not going to be judged for because they're being honest about their mental health and their experiences. So we have a platform for that. We have End the Silence. We have, like Paul said, In Our Own Voice. Um, and then becoming leaders for support groups, or if they want to do an activity or we do like ice cream meetups, that really gives them the voice to be able to have those conversations and feel like they're also helping and supporting other youth. And so I absolutely have noticed that the lived experience is a really big thing within, again, within our generation. I put these two pictures on this slide because one of them, of course, has to do with social media and all of the ways that we can interact. The other one is that maybe there's preference in being in person and having those connections and maybe not even just in-person support groups, but we had gotten creative with our ice cream. We call it What's the Scoop? And what we do with that is that everyone goes and gets ice cream at any place in Connecticut. They get to vote on where they want to go. And we get to try, a new place every time. And we just sit there and we hang out. We have a conversation about life. It doesn't necessarily have to be about mental health, but they're connecting and they're doing it in person and they're getting ice cream. So it makes everybody happy. And we got really creative with that because there was a need. There was a need to do it, but we wanted to get, a way that would want to make people get back out there and enjoying the nice weather, whatever it is. So yeah, so that I think that's our outreach and recruitment within young adults. And we can talk more about that if you guys have any questions on what other strategies that we could do. I actually met with one of the affiliates a few months ago, and they were really struggling with getting young adults to want to be kind of like a part of them or even just being able to like go to table events or they were just trying to figure out what they could do to kind of be connected with young adults. And we had a great conversation around that. There's still young adults who go to coffee shops and go to Panera or go to those little, dive-in places, and you can still put, NAMI flyers or whatever it is on bulletin boards. That's still a thing. But social media is definitely one of the ways that we get it mostly. And so we talked about Facebook and Instagram, and that affiliate was was able to kind of outreach more within their um, community within that, and that was really cool to kind of see that change. Anything else on this, Paul, before we dive into the last slide?
No, but I think you made a very salient point there. Uh, uh, NAMI, as we do sell our programming, we're out there to offer services where people can get involved, whether it's joining a support group, but it's also there's a dual recruitment there, and it serves a great purpose. Those individuals who feel the desire and want to get more involved can become volunteers, as Tori pointed
Right.
out, and that's great because that we need volunteers always. That's the heart and soul of who we are, and those volunteers that also get involved, like instead of just listening to an in our own voice, maybe they want to be an in our own voice presenter.
Yeah.
And that in itself is therapeutic for them. And like Tori said, everybody loves to tell their story. Who knows your story best than you? And it's great when they can get involved at that level and go past just being involved in using our programming for their benefits, then getting involved more, or maybe being a support group leader. So those are great points you made, Tori, about that.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Paul. And I'm gonna look at the chat in 1 second. I'm gonna put up this slide and have and Paul can start the slide and then I'll read the chat. I apologize, I didn't realize that there was anything in there. I just wanted you guys to think of this question before we kind of talk about language and communication.
Mhm.
So, what are some examples that you can think of that generations might use differently, or phrases that you have maybe never said and you hear other populations say it? So, Paul and I were kind of laughing about this. And one of the ones that I was telling you the other night, my little sister and I were on the phone, and again, she's 21, and she was like, "Oh, she was referring to something and she was said, "Oh, that's sick." And I'm like, "Huh?" And it's funny because like when I think of the word sick, I think of like, "Oh, that's gross," or like you're sick. But she uses the word sick all the time and in a very positive way, saying like, "Oh, that's awesome. That's a great thing." And it's just funny how we say things a little differently. And so Paul and I were thinking of kind of like funny ones that could be totally different from his generation to maybe my generation. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about like serious ones and how we've kind of changed over language. But Paul, do you want to come up with any examples or kind of start this
Yeah,
off?
yeah. I think this is probably the cornerstone of this whole thing, and we'll get into this more, but language and communication between bridging the gap. And I think we can do this in different ways. Mine's always, oh, I do it with humor because I think when I look at my own, as Tori mentioned this, I thought this is great. So as I remembered some, I jotted them down during the week, but I thought, at some point during my lifetime, toilet paper became bathroom tissue. Sneakers became running shoes. Old became senior. False teeth became dental appliances. The dump became a landfill. Car crashes became automobiles. Partly cloudy became partly sunny. House trailers became mobile homes. Used cars became previously owned transportation. And of course,
These
my
are
favorite
great.
one is constipation became occasional irregularity.
It's awesome. Those are awesome, Paul. Good job. That's great.
So I just wanted to show the stark changes. I mean, they do it all, it's constantly changing. And
Yeah.
those aren't stigma related ones, but that's where the sticking point gets in with the generational thing and a lot of controversy sometimes. The ones that are stigmas, where of course where we used retarded at one time and now we use mentally challenged or handicapped, and now we use physically challenged. And that's a different breed of those. I did the first ones just as generalized terms we use, but the ones I think there's a second category there, but yeah, Tori, that's
Yeah, no, those are great. Those I was trying to think of the one you and I were talking about the other day. You said like groovy, and I was like, yeah, I'd never say
yeah.
that. There's definitely words that we've like not the same thing. Like they have good
Mhm.
meaning, but I don't think I'd ever use it. And I was talking to you about like the music thing. I'm like, oh, I remember when people would be like, oh, that's my jam. And I'm like, I feel like if I said that, people would look at me like I'm nuts. So I love the language piece, the word piece, just talking kind of about how generations have different words and different meanings. To get into a little bit more seriousness within like mental health and even maybe addiction and stuff, I do like to keep it light, but some of the serious ones that we've had conversations around, we won't dive too much into it, but when we talk about language, we've changed some of our wording. Again, it could be generational. It's kind of just like we're more sensitive in times, and that's okay. We try to be more mindful about things. So one of the ones is around suicide. When we talk about suicide, instead of saying committed, we'll say died by. That's a big one within our suicide community, and they'll talk a lot more about that as well. They'll be talking about that this week. I'm not sure what day, but that's another one that we're discussing this week within our webinars. So another one is mental illness versus mental health condition. Doesn't mean you can't, we can't say these words. It's just that some people are mindful of how we talk about things. So oftentimes I've noticed that a younger population will say mental health condition. And I've noticed some, like even my grandmother, I gave Paul this example the other day that she's 93 years old and she knows what I do for a living. And she'll always say, how's your mental, your mental illness going? And the wording is just so funny because I'm not used to that because again, in my generation and the people that I serve, we talk a lot about mental health conditions. So again, it doesn't mean you can't say it. It's just we're mindful of kind of our wording. And then the last one that I like to put on here, I'm a trained trainer for intentional peer support. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that, but it's another training. And I'm a national trainer, so I learned a lot about language and kind of how we should talk to people and being sensitive within, communities and things that have happened. We use the word trigger a lot because that's something within our trauma and mental health, and of course that makes sense. But one of the things that I was told in a training that I said, yeah, that must be triggering, or I said something like that. And this lady reminded me that gun violence is a real thing right now. It's a lot. There's a lot going on within, shootings or whatever it is. There's a lot of gun violence in our community. And she said, I would love for you to think about instead of saying the word triggered, maybe a different word. And so we came up with activated. Intentional peer support talks about like hot buttons, something that might be a hot button for you. And so I actually don't use the word triggered anymore. And again, it doesn't mean that you can't, it's just being mindful in the population you're speaking in. And I think it's really good for us to kind of have those conversations. Paul, anything else specifically towards language that you want to bring up?
I know when you talk to older folks, you have to relate to them in a different way. And of course, I use the term mental illness when I'm in these facilities
Yep,
talking about them. And I use addiction too. Another one, I'll just give you an example. In the field, you talk about opioid use disorder. Not in the field, but when you're in clinical. But when I'm out in the field, I don't do it. I just use addiction because I
yep,
found, um, while that term someone will refrain from it, virtually every person I talk to out there, if you've the only people that have a reservation to use it have never been addicted. Anybody that has no problem use it. I've been an addicted.
sure.
It's like the Alcoholics Anonymous. You gotta call it like you see it, own it, and then you can move forward. And every person I've talked to about this who's really been in the I mean, we've had all kinds of addiction. It's funny, we'll talk about people are addicted to technology, but we won't do it with drugs. I don't know why that
Sure.
is. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Uh, but no, I found when I talk to the individuals, they never have problems with it, and they all use the term freely. So that's just my take on a couple of anecdotal experiences I've had with that. So I don't
Yeah.
refrain from that. And I'm mindful of mental illness, of course, if it's a younger group, but in general, if I'm the groups I talk to, I use it interchangeably, mental illness and mental health challenge, depending on the
Yeah.
group. But yeah, both of them.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that perspective. I do want to be mindful of time. We'll have question and answers in 1 minute. Just the last piece of this is just talking about communication styles, which we've kind of talked throughout our whole presentation.
Hmm.
But just one of the things again that like Paul and I were discussing is that that can also change within just people. It doesn't have to be an age. It can just be, anyone has a different communication style. They might, like I had you guys think about earlier, there's people who want to be face to face. Like if I say, hey, I want to talk to you about something and someone rather be face to face, I understand that's not my thing, but some people like that. We were talking about our staff meeting the other day about emailing. I just don't feel like, again, the younger generation, they don't respond to my emails, but they'll respond to my text within seconds. I mean, seconds.
Yeah.
So it's just you have to kind of see what you're working with, and there's a lot of different communication styles that we have access to now. And again, adapting to that is super important within all populations. I think it's really important. Paul, before we do question and answer and kind of look at the chat box, is there anything else you want to say around that?
Just on what you just said, it's interesting. You talked about how to get a hold of you. You said you're trying to get people and you text them and they immediately respond. That's
Yeah.
great because um, older people, I guess the difference is, what was I going to say? The younger people seem to, they've moved to text and social media for their communication and information. Older people still haven't got the digital literacy where they're at there, so they still like face to face or pick up a phone and call. And I think
Mm,
that's a two-bladed sword because while it is convenient for us sometimes we can hide behind digital media, we can hide behind texting. Uh, you give an example of um, um, a mother and her son. They actually have a protracted argument while they're texting back and forth on their phones. I mean, that protracted on and on argument. And the absurdity of it is they're both living in the same house. They're under the same roof, just in different rooms. You
yes,
yeah, everybody's smiling because it's funny and it's true because that doesn't make any sense. And you know it happens. I know people have had it happen, but how did it get to this? And that's where we have a problem with our media today.
absolutely. Thanks, Paul. That's
Sure.
funny. All right, everyone, we really appreciate your guys' attention with all of these topics that we talked about today. And if you guys have any questions that you would like to talk about, I do see the chat box. And Steve, I'm actually just replying to you. I'd love to get your email and connect with you around maybe helping figure out some things for your 31-year-old son. That's kind of my forte right now anyway, so I can kind of show you maybe some of the different support groups or different supports we can have. And I appreciate you sharing that with us in the chat. So perfect. I'll take down your email and we can connect with that. Absolutely. Um, any other questions or comments or anything you guys would like to talk about?
Yes, of course they do. Come on, you guys. Somebody's got a story. Give me a story. If you don't even talk about it, I love stories. Tori and I both love stories. Anybody?
I
Some
do love
don't.
stories.
Somebody's got a story here. When I was a kid, that's how I start mine out. When I was a kid, no, well, if you don't, I want to start. We got the time left. I wanted to remind you guys, Tori mentioned about suicide and we talked about different suicides. I wasn't aware of this. I had to look it up again today. I knew the numbers, but not exactly. But does anybody here know who the highest category age-wise for suicides in our country? Anybody know? It's 85 and older, 22%. Our annual suicide for 40, um, we get about 46 gun deaths a year. I'm just going to tell you something interesting. 46 gun deaths, 27,000 are by suicides, and men constitute 87% of those gun deaths by suicide. But the oldest group is 85, 22%. The other ones, just to go down the categories, they're all around 18%. They fall a little, but that's all the way down to 25 to 34. It's pretty balanced. I don't know the gender breakdown on that, but it's just interesting that 85 plus is the oldest. Of course, we know why people have lost the will to live or they're suffering and or whatnot at the end of life. That's the highest group. But I just thought that was interesting. Statistic to share with you guys.
It
And
is.
seemed like there was one other thing I wanted to touch with you that I jotted down here on this. Oh, the other thing, Tori, I want to talk to you about. Um,
Sure.
One of the things I find the difference, I didn't, and you guys, when I look at this, the contrasting difference between how we reach across, we know the language barrier, and of course, contemporary affairs. One group we might talk about Elvis, or we're not going to talk about Bad Bunny with them, and that's the other group. But everybody has different, you have to know your audience. But a lot of the things we know about these groups is isolation and loneliness. We talked about it. It's a shared thing on both ends. They did polls and 16 over, it's about a third of the people feel like they're isolated and lonely. They
Yeah.
do with the same with the younger group. They got about those same numbers. It's bizarre that it's like that, but they share the same thing. They're alone. They're going through a lot of them are going through a life passage in their life. The young person, 18 to 25, trying to find out who they are, what they're going to do with their life. The other person's retiring and finding out, seeing the end of life and the challenges are the same. They have the same challenges about happiness and meaning for their lives. Um, I noticed one of the things that we don't have in older populations that we do in younger that brings a lot of concern to me is this thing about body dysmorphia that I hear about, and the extreme preoccupation young people have with defects in their appearance because of social media. And there's been a lot of this unrealistic filtering, images curated, lifestyles that people that present these lifestyles that don't exist. And
Yeah.
I know the impact that has on the younger generation. We didn't have to face that. I only knew about my neighbors next door. That's the only thing I was ever jealous of, not anybody else. So
No, you're absolutely right.
yes.
We didn't touch upon Christine, I'll give you 1 second. Sorry. Yeah, the that's what I kept mentioning, like TikTok, because oftentimes a lot of this generation has been kind of comparing themselves to people on social media, and it's sad. Like it's tough because I think there's a lot of great things about social media and there's some negative to it as well. I could go into that all day, but Christina, I would love for you to go ahead and share your comment or question, and then we do have to wrap up, so you can go ahead.
More of a commentary. Hi, everyone.
Yeah,
I think
Sure.
what we've noticed here in the work that we do with young adults, adolescents, young adults, and a little bit of a difference that I think is positive more recently is sort of the self-destigmatization of mental health conditions or mental illness. Younger individuals, including some of our staff, are much more open about leading off with, hey, this is my diagnosis, this is who I am, and I own it. And it's a little bit of a, not to over, I don't want to overzealously sell this, but almost like a little bit of a badge of bravery. Like this is who I am and this is what I need, and really advocating. Whereas my generation, my parents' generation, it was more stigmatized and kind of like, keep that behind closed doors. Don't let anybody know that you have anxiety or depression. And now, I mean, I've done interviews with interns and young clinicians who come in and they're talking about their own lived experience, and it's
yeah,
beautiful and it's just
yeah.
different. And I think that's a positive, different generational piece that I've seen. So that's just a
I
comment.
love that. Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing that. I love that.
I
I
do
think
too.
that dives into the like sharing your lived experience and everything. I think it's extremely positive that we can go from that because again, like my grandmother and my grandfather, they never talked about mental health. And then they see their granddaughter like all about it and talking about it all the time and like that's my whole life. And it is definitely different generational, but it is a positive thing that we're able to be more open about it. So I love that comment. I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very true.
Anyone else have any comments? We are going to wrap up. It is that time, so we want to be mindful. But anything else you guys want to share? All right. If not, we really appreciate you guys being here. And yeah, we hope you have a great day. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Bye-bye.
All right.